Hello there friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be playing with some of the Simon Hurley Create new stuff. We have some of the Lunar Pastes, these are new. We've got our Rosy Cheeks, our Guppy, and our Crown Me. I do have one ink showing there that's fake plant, but we are going to use some other ones as well. This is the brand new Framed Florals stamp set. It's a big, beautiful stamp set. And then this stencil is glorious. It's two pieces. It's called the Geo Circle Stencil, and I'm going to show you a couple of different color patterns that we're going to use. We're going to make a set of cards. So I have my Tonic platform. I'm going to take some of the magnets that I have, and we're actually just going to start with some ink coloring or blending. We've got our Rosy Cheeks ink, and I've got a blending buddy that I'm just going to blend that ink through the stencil, this first part. And you can do either part first. It really doesn't matter. So I'll pull that away. I think that looks super cool by itself. But while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and grab in the other part of the stencil and another piece of cardstock. We're going to use that same Rosy Cheeks, and we're going to blend that one onto there. I'm going to make 3 cards today. So we're going to use all 3 of those big, beautiful images from our Framed Florals. And yeah, now that we've got a couple of our backgrounds, we're going to bring in, I've cleaned everything off. We're going to bring in the other part of the stencil, and we're going to kind of line that up on there. It's so pretty. Just wait till I pull the stencil away and you'll see how cool it looks. But once again, putting that down on my Tonic platform, holding the stencil in place with some magnets, and then I'm going to bring in the Crown Me Lunar Paste. Now, what makes this paste so cool is that it dries fairly quickly, and there's lots of different techniques you can use for this paste. It doesn't dry out. I mean, I haven't had it dry out, and I have some of the most, the original Lunar Paste when they first came out, and everything is still just as creamy and beautiful and metallic as the day I got it. So this stuff is awesome. And I'm just going to spread this all over that background, just trying to make sure I get it in there pretty well. Using a palette knife, and these are the tools that Simon Hurley Create has for their Lunar Paste, which I highly, highly recommend if you're using these across a full stencil. And then I'm going to pull this stencil away, and you'll see just how gorgeous it looks. And when it dries just the way you see it, basically. So that's why it's kind of, it's hard to tell if it's dry or not, unless you touch it. But check that out, that shine, the metallic look to it, it is stunning. All right, cleaned everything up, and then we're going to do the other one, but this time we're going to bring in some Guppy Lunar Paste. I think this one might be my favorite from this new release. It's this pretty orange, almost like a gold orange. I can't explain it, and I feel like it looks different than what I'm showing you here on video. It looks just a little different in real life, but once again, we're going to just spread that through the stencil, and it's so easy to do if you have this particular tool. I'll have it linked down below, but it's so easy if you have that one. You don't get those weird divots and grooves that you sometimes get if you're just using a palette knife. So then we'll pull that stencil away and take a look at how cool that looks with the Rosy Cheeks ink. I'm in love. I just think it's gorgeous. All right, so we'll clean up our mess once again. Then I'm going to bring in some of the Guppy ink, and we're going to blend that on one of the stencils, or through one of the stencils onto a clean background. And then we're going to bring in that last Lunar Paste, which is the Rosy Cheeks, and we'll put it through this stencil. So that way you'll have seen all 3 of those Lunar Pastes used. They're so pretty. All right, so we've got that going. And it's basically the same thing that we've done the whole time, but I just wanted you to see, because it's so easy to use these, and yeah, they dry fairly quickly if you don't make it super thick. And using these tools makes it so fun and easy to spread that on there. And you'll notice I didn't have really any like squish through, if that makes sense. Or sometimes when you're using a paste like this, because it's nice and creamy, it didn't squish through on the other side of the stencil. All right, so we'll pull that away, take a look at how pretty that one looks. Oh, I love it. So I'm going to clean up my mess, and then I'll show you what all 3 of those backgrounds look like next to each other. I'm going to hit this up with my heat tool a little bit, just to make sure everything's nice and dry, and then we'll move on to our stamping. So I just have a piece of white cardstock that I've put into my Misty, and I'm grabbing all 3 of those large images from the Framed Florals. Now, there isn't a die that goes along with this stamp set, although there are dies for the other stamp sets that are newly released. I love that Simon Hurley Create is starting to do that. And then I'm going to ink this up using some fake plant. It's that really pretty green ink if you're unfamiliar with it. And I love the name of it, fake plant. It's perfect. So I'm just going to ink that up with our fake plant. And the reason I'm using the Misty is because I know I'm going to have a hard time getting it to completely stamp well the first time. So I'll, try and get a good impression the first go. And I don't. So we'll do it again. Making sure that everything's lined up because I wasn't sure if I had pushed it to the bottom or the top. Turns out it was the bottom. And then we'll once again ink that up with our fake plant, and that'll do a better job of getting a good impression. But that's why a stamp positioning tool is so important, at least for me. All right, so pull that away, and beautiful. So now I'm going to bring in some of my Olo markers. These are alcohol markers, and you'll notice I'm coloring right over the top of the green ink. So there are a lot of great inks out there, but I absolutely adore my Simon Hurley Create inks because there are so many great techniques you can do with them. You can watercolor with them, you can blend them beautifully, and here, this one is another one. We don't always think to stamp with a colored ink and try and go over the top of it with alcohol markers, but with these particular inks, you can. You can't do that obviously with all inks that are out there. All inks are created differently, but these ones are fabulous for that. So keep that in mind. If you like alcohol marker coloring, you may want to grab these inks to have in your stash because we don't always want to color or stamp in black. At least I don't. I like to mix it up a little bit. Sometimes it's fun to stamp in a different color and then see what you can do with that. And this one is a perfect ink to do that with. So I've put down a light purple. We're going to bring in a darker purple, and then we'll blend that out a little bit. But I tried to match these up with the backgrounds that I plan to use them with. So we're blending out that color, and then we'll move on to those last flowers. Those last flowers are going to be more like the rosy cheeks, but again, just bringing in my Olo markers to do so. And I actually really like the pink on top of the green like that. I think it's really pretty. So we'll use this lighter color to start, and then of course bring in a darker color to add a little bit of contrast. And then I think for that second color, I'm not really going to have to do much in the way of blending once I get that on there, because the colors that I chose were actually really close together in the color line. So we'll grab our next color, and then we're just going to blend that out a little bit. No, I guess I do. I think I do go in and blend that a little bit with our lighter pink. But look at that. Isn't that fun? I love using those alcohol markers with the dark green. All right, now I'm just going to trim these out using my scissors. Because these are not straight lines, it's super easy to do. You don't have to worry about it being a straight line that you cut, which is nice. So I'm just trimming around it. My backgrounds are all dry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these down the way I want them for each of my cards. Now these panels were 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So that's the full front of an A2 size card. So one of those I trimmed down so that it's only going to have a white border on the right hand side, and the other two I trimmed down so that there would be a border all around. But our bases measure 5 1/2 inches by 8 1/2 inches, and we're going to score those at 4 1/4. So like I said, these are side folding A2 size cards. Then I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue to adhere down each of our panels to our bases. And this one and this one are going to be the ones that have a nice white border all the way around. But our final card is just going to have a white border on the right hand side. So that one measures 4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And so yeah, love that. And then we'll take our panels that I chose to use for each one of those, and we're just going to put those down with a little bit of liquid glue. Probably be fun to use some foam squares or foam tape if you wanted to, but I'm going to make these some super easy mailers and may even give these as a gift because it's going to be a nice little set. And then I'll take the leftover paper that I had trimmed down, and we'll put those on the inside of each of those cards just to have a little bit from the outside in. I'll stamp out the sentiment just a note 3 times, and then I'll trim that down with my guillotine trimmer. And then I am going to stamp on the inside this last little sentiment. For each one of those, it's going to say, "You make the world a better place." I feel like that is a great sentiment. And then our last and final bit we're going to do is glue down our sentiments to the front of each of these cards. I love how this little set turned out. I love the lunar paste. I feel like that is, you don't need any more on the outside because of that. It's just stunning. So if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.